So I'm on the Sutton Zephyr Rail Trail, which probably has the coolest sounding name of any rail trail in Ontario. It's definitely cooler than the L, N and E rail trail. I've just left Boone Park in Jackson's Point, and I'm heading south through the small town of Sutton to the Sutton Zephyr Rail Trail, which is really a little known trail. Maybe we'll discover some of the reasons why it's little known. And the trail at the minute, whoop, get a bit too close there, the trail at the minute looks okay-ish. It's kind of isolated from a lot of the other rail trails. You'll see shorter rail trails like the Thornton-Cookstown Rail Trail, and that's really not too far from the Caledon Trail, so you could link two trails together. This one, you're, as I said, you're quite a bit isolated, and so people aren't necessarily going to ride on this trail and link it up to other trails. So because of that, this trail is largely forgotten. If you look it up on Google, or if you look it up on YouTube, you won't find an awful lot of reference to it, which is possibly a shame. I mean, it's not going to be a very long ride for me today, but so far it's very pleasant. The surface is really bad. It's not unrideable, and it's certainly fine on a mountain bike, but it's not a smooth surface, not like sort of the Caledon Trailway, for example. But there seems to be a lot of these tree tunnels, and it is very, very peaceful. Sorry for pointing you straight at the sun just then. Alright, this looks weird. It's two people walking, and then behind them it's either two motorbikes or a car. And yeah, it's a car. That's not good. Oh, or is it on the road? Yes, it might be on the road. Yeah. I come on rail trails to get away from cars, so to everyone driving up the rail trail would be very disappointing, to say the least. That was very strange. Look how foggy it is. Not sure if they were dumping something. I didn't see anything as I went by. That's very, very peculiar. So a problem with a sort of a lesser used rail trail like this, the maintenance and upkeep, the lack of it, isn't just restricted to the surface. I mean, it's very evident in the surface, but it's also evident where you come to these crossings. There's no barriers, there's no sort of restriction funnels that prevent anything larger than bicycles and people getting through them. So yeah, you could get the possibility of people trying to drive their vehicles down there. Pretty antisocial, especially for a Sunday morning. Believe it or not, they happened to be the only people that I saw on the trail the whole day. And maybe it was because the only people I saw on this trail were a family of potential psychopaths who were trying to dump their latest victim, or maybe even look for their next victim. Or perhaps it was because the countryside was shrouded in this thick and atmospheric veil of fog. It could have been that the tree-lined trails were musty and damp, or that I was stalked for most of the trail by a very vocal bunch of crows. It could have even been the same crow over and over again. But whatever it was, this trail kind of was eerie. Not in a wholly negative way. It wasn't scary. It was kind of mysterious and atmospheric and pretty cool. So I can't even see really where the trail would be on the other side, and I don't want to go into all of that just so I don't want to get poison ivy or stung or ripped to shreds by thorns. But yeah, this is the end of our route, and I'll just look on my Garmin to see how far I've gone. I am such a klutz. I was going to stop at the bridge and or where the bridge is out and tell you how far I'd gone, which was 14.5 kilometers. At the same time, I was getting a bit of nourishment in, and I managed to cover myself in sticky sweet energy gel. And then I got a panic on and thought, oh my god, the mosquitoes and the horseflies and everything are going to be after me. So I've come charging from there, and I'm back at that little playground again, which is as nice a place as any to stop. So it's not so bad after all, and there are no mosquitoes here at all. So in the 19th century, there was a much longer rail line called the Toronto-Nipissing rail line, and then off there from Stouffville heading north there was a branch line called the Simcoe Junction rail line, and that arrived in the town of Sutton. In fact, it went all the way up to Jackson's Point in 1877, which coincided very nicely with the arrival of the Springwater Ice Company, which itself had come up from Richmond Hill. It used to work out of Lake Wilcox and Bond Lake up in Richmond Hill, and they moved further north so they could start harvesting ice from Lake Simcoe, and then that was transported down to Toronto. At some points in the winter it would be up to 40 wagons of ice a day, all wrapped in hay to stop it from melting too much, would be transported down to Toronto. And then of course the invention of refrigeration kind of killed that industry. But the question that I have is, isn't there a very large lake just south of Toronto? Why are they getting their ice from Lake Simcoe? Or is it maybe that Lake Simcoe was more reliably frozen than Lake Ontario? I don't know. Does anyone else know? I actually genuinely would be interested to know the answer to that question. Anyway, I'm heading that way, and I decided to stop in this nice open bit of marshland, and there are, despite me being a sticky treat for insects, there are no mosquitoes around at all, which is wonderful. When thinking about or reviewing a ride, I have to be cognizant of the fact that I really love rail trails. So regardless of the trail, I'm almost definitely going to have enjoyed myself. With that in mind, I do have some reservations and reasons why I wouldn't wholeheartedly recommend it to you. First, the surface. It's very rough in places and it can be very muddy, so it's more suited to a mountain bike or a fat bike than a road bike. And then the length. Even with the additional bits I added on, it was still only 29 kilometers, which I know for most of the people who watch my channel is just not going to be long enough. And there were very few facilities directly on the trail. I didn't see a single bench. And as for cars being able to drive on it, well, that's definitely less than ideal. Having said all of that, I did really enjoy my day on the trail, and I hope you enjoyed coming along for the ride and seeing what the trail was like as well. If you did, please remember, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next ride.